Welcome to another episode of the MarTech Unraveled podcast. Today, we have another episode in the Market Signal segment, and we are talking AI adoption. Now, AI is dominating conversations in boardrooms around the world, including here in Africa. But while companies globally are investing billions in generative AI, research findings from the MIT State of AI in Business 2025 report suggests that up to 95% of enterprises' initiatives fail to deliver measurable value. So the real question for leaders in African organizations isn't just whether to adopt AI, it's how to do it in a way that actually creates impact. And how can we learn from the experiences of markets that are further along the adoption curve? Joining me today is Timothy Laku, who's a fractional CIO and CTO and an AI transformation advisor. Welcome to the podcast, Timothy.
Thank you so much, Fiona.
Awesome. Glad to have you here and would love to know a bit more about who Timothy is and the work that you do.
Yeah. So I've been in this space for some time now, actually 20 plus years. My background is technology. So basically I did IT, information tech back in the days, got into software. From software, got into hardware, transitioned through the time when everything was moving to the cloud. There used to be days where computers were sitting or servers were sitting inside offices. And then, of course, we don't see those now.
Yeah.
So everything transitions to the cloud back in the days. Then there was a segment in time, I think about 10 years ago, there was this term called digital transformation that showed up. And everybody was like, what is that? What is that? Then everybody was being asked to digitize.
Yeah.
All processes that were manual, that were still sitting in paper, we have to go to the computer. We have to put that online, right? And so there was that transition during that phase, which we were calling digital transformation. And then now, as of last year, there's this new space of what is called AI transformation, right? And so I've been through literally the phases of that, going through the journeys of that. Before Windows 95.
Whoa.
Windows 95, meaning the way you could communicate with a computer was through a black door screen.
Wow.
So those was my early days, then through the cloud transition to the internet transition to the mobile phone transition. Back in the days, there was still the non-smartphone, right? To the smartphone.
Kabambe.
The kabambe, right? And to now smartphones that run apps and to having businesses running on a phone, right? And then now this transition to AI. So so that's kind of my journey through it all. I have seen it all, and everything happens, every new thing that comes up, kind of have to adapt to that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So you are very well poised to, lend your voice to this conversation because you've seen it from the .com?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Pre.com, pre-GUI, what they used to call GUI. We interact with computers now and it's, you click, you draw something that is visual with color.
Yeah.
But there was something before that, which was just black screen.
The commands, what are they called? Commands.
Command prompt.
Yes.
Command prompt. DOS. That was the term for it, right?
Floppy disks?
Yeah, floppy disks, right? I've gone through that phase. Floppy disks to USB, and then off to the disks. You remember the days of the disks, right? Music was being sort of written on this round thing.
Yeah, burnt on a disc.
Yeah, burnt, right? You have to put it on a computer to be able to play it and then read, play that sound. Yeah. So there was that, and then everything went to smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, there used to be a desktop that was this huge.
Yeah.
Now we have a laptop. The laptops are becoming smaller and smaller as well.
Yeah.
So there's that transition. Everything now, the things you can do on a smartwatch, for example, literally back in the days, you couldn't do even on a huge computer, right? So the speed of compute, the capabilities that the devices we use nowadays can do, all of that has sort of improved over time. Yes, I've gone through, seen the transition of that from software to hardware.
Right. Okay, cool, awesome. So our conversation is going to be very exciting then.
Yes, most definitely, right? Because then I've got that reference point to how it used to be. To today and how I think it's going to be over the next 10, 15 years.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So let's get started. So you recently ran a masterclass
Yes.
at the CIO Summit last year.
Yes.
And you asked the CIOs in the room what their biggest question is about getting started with AI adoption. What were your findings?
It was really interesting. I don't. I surprised? Yes, but it was really insightful. So about 55% of the responses that we got was around essentially we don't know where to start. No surprises there.
Interesting.
As to whether it was going to be that big in terms of percentage, I think that for me was a surprise. I was expecting maybe 30%.
Yeah.
55% of them, right? The second one was around just talent, whether you have the right people in the organization to be able to support you with AI in terms of just the knowledge and the skills. That was roughly about 5%. So small.
Wow.
So people are not worried about the talent.
Okay.
Right? What this tells me is that people are more worried about they have no idea where to start.
Okay.
Part of that is probably also talent and skills, right? Because we don't know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
5%. The other 5% was more around the tools. Like which tools should we use? How should we navigate that? And then the remaining, I think it's about 18 or 25%, was essentially about aligning that value to the business, which does make sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to start is 55%. The second one is, okay, if I do know where to start, how is it going to contribute to the company in terms of strategic objectives, right? What's the ROI I'm going to get from this?
Yeah.
What's the cost of running this tech for me vis-a-vis the value in terms of how much the business is going to gain out of it? So that was the next biggest bucket, and it does make sense. What was surprising for me was the skills and the talent component was 5%.
Yeah.
And the tools discussion was 5% as well, very low. Nobody's worried about that.
Yeah.
Makes sense because at a strategic level, if you're an exco and you are sitting at the board level, you don't want to start with tools, you don't want to start with skill set, you want to start with, okay, so as a company,
Yeah.
does this add value to us? And if it does, what kind of value does it add to us? And then now we can come to think about skills and we can start to talk about tools and all of these other aspects afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's more like the strategic level, like let's paint that first, and then we can figure out, okay, who do we need? What do we need to support
Exactly.
that
And
strategy?
and which tools should we go for? And there are many tools out there, but before you start the conversation around skills and tools, you want to start the conversation at the leadership level
Yeah.
to try and figure out, is this right for us? And then there's also the component of, there were companies back in the days before the internet, not before the internet, but when the internet was like sort of blowing up. Everyone was going online.
Yeah.
And so there was the conversation, and I'm sure the conversations in boardrooms that companies are having today around should we integrate AI into our operations is the same way 15, 20, 25 years ago companies were asking themselves, how does an online version of our company look like? And there were companies who were like, nah, that's a fad. We're not going to be bothered with it. There's some companies who are like, we must integrate it as quickly as possible, even before thinking about ROI. Because the tech is here and the tech is going to go, right? Like either we jump on this or we don't.
Yeah.
We're going to be left behind, right? And then there are companies that are like, we're not going to open up shops or offices. We will be 100% online.
Right.
And so those same conversations are actually happening today around AI, right? The companies that are going to be like AI native on day one, we're building our company on top of AI.
Yeah.
We're an AI native company. Then the companies are like, we want to integrate AI in our processes.
Yeah.
What can we change? How does that actually look like?
Yeah.
And then there's the third category who are going to be like, nah, this thing is not for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't, they're not bothered. So there's always going to be those three buckets of organizations and companies when a new tech comes in.
Yeah.
Those who don't care and those who are like, let's jump on this thing as soon as possible. And then there's also the late adopters.
Yes. Yes.
You know, they're like, let's just watch and see. Let's see who's doing what and watch them. There's some are going. We're going to see people fail. We're going to see people succeed.
Yeah.
But until we figure that out and see how many of them and why they failed and why they succeeded, then we learn from the ones who succeeded.
Yeah.
We'll come in at this stage probably next year or 2 years from now.
Yes.
So they're just watching and waiting.
Exactly.
They'll jump on board, but much later on.
Yeah.
So it's not. There's nothing new under the sun. Like this whole thing we've gone through before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We've gone through this before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess it's that adoption curve, where you have your early adopters
Yes.
and you have your majority, the one in the middle is the majority.
Yes,
And the
yes.
laggards who are like, just
give me some time and then I'm going to jump onto this one.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong answer for anyone. It really just depends with the business and the risk appetite for your business. But also it does depend in terms of, for those who usually jump early, they usually love to take risks. And so for them, we've been taking risks all this for the last 25 years. We're good. We know that we're going to win.
Yeah.
But then there are those who take those early risks. They probably shouldn't take those early risks because they don't have the resources to be able to support or to cushion them.
Yeah.
And also they don't have the right leadership. And I know we're going to make a lot of discussions around governance and why some of these projects actually fail. And then there are those ones who are like, you know what, I have nothing to lose. I can as well just jump and do this from day one, right? So it depends. It depends with the organization. It depends with the company.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So just to, bolster that point or to add on to that point, in a recent State of AI in Business report by MIT, although largely based on organizations that are in mature markets, Africa may not heavily be represented in the data. However, it highlighted a major paradox that companies globally are investing tens of billions into generative AI, yet 95% of the initiatives are not delivering measurable impact. So one of the report's most interesting ideas was the Gen AI divide, which is the gap between organizations experimenting with AI and those who are actually generating meaningful impact. So in your experience advising companies, what separates organizations that cross the divide from experimentation to meaningful adoption?
Yeah. So I think I'll use some use cases in sort of responding to you when it comes to this. So there are people who are winning and they're succeeding, right? When they're piloting and testing and trialing, and there are use cases across Africa for that. And then there's a group of companies and organizations that have tried and failed, right? And so we can learn a lot from those two categories of the different companies. So banks in Africa have tried something called credit scoring, right, using AI. Now, what credit scoring is about is you apply for a loan to a bank, you fill up a form, they go through maybe 1,000 of these forms on a weekly basis, but human beings have to go through that and look at different, the way you've responded, the answers you've given, and then be able to say, should we give this person a loan or not, right? And since it's a manual process, and because the volume of the transactions are many, that process usually takes time. To be able to get a loan approved, if it's not a process that has been automated in your bank, it might take 1-2 weeks plus, right? Even the most efficient banks, having to do that within days is literally almost impossible without necessarily, making decisions that later on the bank has to reconsider because either they rushed through it or because the details of what you've actually entered was not correct, and then they find out later that they need to actually check that, right? So that is a space that can easily be moved over. That's a workflow that can easily be given to AI and it to do a better job at it because it's faster, right? Just train it enough to be able to know how to make that decision. And then with enough data, any information or request that gets handed over to the AI, it will be able to make that decision pretty fast. So 1,000 requests coming in on a weekly basis can literally be resolved within hours. In that case. And you don't need 10 people or 15 people in the credit department to be able to do that. So the business value is clear for the bank when they move that credit scoring process and give it and hand it over to the AI. So many banks have tried that. They've learned, from the failures through that in 2024, in 2023. A lot of that was actually happening. And one of the reasons why these projects related to credit scoring in the banks actually failed was because the data that was being fed was essentially biased, right? And so what used to happen was you have more men applying for loans than women. And so in the data set, there's a skewness to the men vis-a-vis the women. And so by default, the AI is thinking, if we did make a lot of approvals and there are more men, so therefore by default, men would be the ones to be approved and not necessarily women.
Right.
Okay, not correct, obviously, but it's just a data women vis-a-vis men in the set of the data, right? There were more men applying for loans in the data set.
Yeah.
And so it was denying women loans.
Right.
And approving obviously more for the men than the women, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, there was a need for someone to be able to look at the data and say, oh, wait a minute, we do have more men in here than women. Why don't we balance this out and give it more data around women so that is actually balanced? So the bias came from the fact that the data set was skewed towards one particular gender.
Yeah.
The other thing that was happening also in the data was that if you think about the dynamics in terms of the people who apply for loans, they are more urban and less peri-urban or out of, say, Nairobi, for example.
Okay.
In the data, let's take a bank in Nairobi, for example.
Okay.
How many, in a data sample of, say, 1,000 loan applications, how many live in Nairobi? It would be way more than someone who lives out of Nairobi, for example, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a bias there where if someone is qualified and they live outside of Nairobi, but the fact that the data in the data set they're represented in a small sample, by default the AI will deny them the loan,
Right.
and give it to the urban person,
because
most of the approved applications lived in the urban segment.
Right.
But if you put a human in the loop and looked at the data, you would see that that person from Nakuru actually qualifies.
Yeah. It
But
was
then
not a location.
It wasn't a location
specific
problem.
issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But within the way that the data was actually submitted, the sample size, Nakuru people were less, Nairobi people were more, right?
Yeah.
So that becomes an issue. So because of that kind of bias, it was important through the process to govern and look at the data before training the AI, right? So those lessons were learned in the banking sector around credit scoring. They're doing it better now, and they're definitely balancing that.
Yeah.
So failure number one is just not having enough governance around the data set. Because remember, AI works with data, and so if you're to feed it data, think about the kind of data that you're actually feeding it for it to be able to make decisions.
Yeah.
So for some of those organizations that fall under the 95% that were failing, they did not look at the data enough before they actually posted it to AI and then be able to then ask the AI to make decisions for the business. So another case study would be if there are chatbots that have been tested across Africa, some in West Africa, Nigeria, chatbots for mamambogas, right? Completely you disconnect the solution from the context of where you want to apply that solution. I mean, think about it, in mamambogas using a chatbot.
Right.
They would need to have a smartphone. They would need to have internet,
Yeah.
right? And then they would need to essentially interact with this chatbot in the language that the chatbot has been built. If it's English, and now if I bring that situation here to Nairobi, the mamamboga is speaking in Swahili and some other language, not necessarily very fluent in English, but if your chatbot is predominantly English and doesn't understand Kiswahili, then you have a problem, right? Solution is good. The objective behind having to build something like that for the mamamboga makes sense, but for the context in which you want to roll it out, you're disconnected, right? And so by default, that project was bound to fail. The other thing is just the dependency to funding that was donor-driven, for example, for the Ghana sort of use case where they were piloting a solution for having to get data around pricing for maize, and then being able to share that information with anyone who's trading maize over SMS. But the funding of that was pegged to donor finances. And then when the donor financing doesn't come through, the project essentially doesn't have any resources to continue to operate. And so eventually that actually, falls apart. So there's that component of you're thinking about this project. The sustainability conversation around it hasn't happened. You've implemented it, you've rolled it out. And you're not thinking, okay, a year or 2 or 3 years from now, who's going to continue to fund this? Because the money from the mamambogas is not going to be able to fund this, right? And so you haven't thought through the entire project, through the entire life cycle, from inception all the way to what does it mean over the next 5 years. And so that particular gap means that when the funds run out, then you shut down the project as well.
Yeah.
So that's another classic case of an example of a project that was supposed to be for public good, serve mama mbogas in Ghana, but then because funding stopped, there was no plan to continue to support that project over time.
Yeah.
And that's how it actually crumbled, right?
Yeah.
And so there's situations like that, within the continent where, there's no long-term thinking around it, the context in which you're bringing the solution, you haven't thought through that really well, and then to be able to think about the bias in the data, to be able to think through what kind of data before you hand it over to AI and train AI, and then be able to say, are we envisioning that this thing is going to be biased based on the data set we have? We need to look at the data first before we hand it over to AI and train AI. So situations like that lead to a lot of the projects failing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You've raised quite a few key points there, which also I think leads us to the next point, where it's like, these organizations are trying to integrate AI into existing systems.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, some of the tensions happen. It takes time to, you have your system already running as a bank, things are already moving. And there's this AI thing that's come and you're experimenting with it over here, but it has to integrate into your existing processes, existing systems. So again, just maybe tell us a little bit more about how, why integration is proving so difficult for enterprises. Because I think that's a point that you just raised with the banking example.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult, and what thinking needs to happen in order for integration to happen more seamlessly or more successfully?
Yeah. And also just to kind of add on to that particular point is that right now, again, you have a company that already has its systems in place. There are people in place doing a couple of things. The roles have been filled. Things are working, and you're hearing about this. What is this AI thing? It's going to bring efficiencies to customer care and call center.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one here. Does it add value in that regard? What is this AI thing? I think our reporting in finance can be streamlined, right? And so your board is playing golf with other board members from other companies, and they're hearing of those other companies doing amazing things with AI.
Yeah.
And then now they're under pressure to come and experiment. And so you're getting pressure from the board telling you, what's happening? We need to see some AI project.
Yeah. What are we doing with AI? Yeah.
What are we doing with AI? Yeah. You guys haven't presented anything today in the board meeting around AI. We want to see you bring something, right? So you're under pressure in that regard.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that you're now looking for a project to plug in somewhere. And yet the right way to do it is, we have a problem. We cannot grow our call center exponentially. We have maybe 300 people in our call center right now, for example, and we're getting way more volumes of calls than these 300 people can actually address. Can we then plug in AI in this case to be able to manage that and add capacity, right? And be able to bring some efficiencies in that team. So real problem, and now you're thinking about a solution, and AI can actually answer that.
Yeah.
But when there's when this peer pressure is coming from the top, and you have to plug in something, you end up plugging in this thing in the wrong place, right? Because you're in a rush and because there's pressure, right? And so part of this is really just because companies right now are being pressured to find an AI solution or to bring an AI project to the board and then have that conversation. And because of that pressure, they're not thinking through rationally on where we should actually plug this. And that becomes a problem. There are people who are thinking through it properly. They've been given time to study, look at all the problems that we have. Think about customer churn, for example. Let's say for a telecom, right? You're losing, I don't know, maybe 1,000 customers every week. That's a problem. And you're thinking, what should we do about this, right? And then you go out there and you ask and you collect data and you have information and you're synthesizing that information. Why are people leaving? Because maybe we call them and then we send them promotions that are not relevant to them. Someone is calling me from the telecom and is telling me, we see that you're in Nakuru. We have this thing happening in Nakuru this week. Would like you to be part of it. Send you over SMS. I'm in Nairobi. I'm looking at that message and I'm like, they really don't know who I am and where I am, right? And mistakes like that happen. Or you live in Upper Hill and then your ISP sending you messages saying, that, oh, we know you are in Gigiri, we are upgrading internet packages there, and we have an offer for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm in Upper Hill. I'm not in in Gigiri. You see, like they don't. So it's small things like that that just pisses you off as a customer. They don't know you, right? Can you personalize the marketing message, the promotion, the ad, or whatever the case might be to your customers?
Yeah.
You have enough data about all your customers. And when you send out, I would say, spam messages, like just broadcast messages to
spray and pray.
everyone, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to be happy because it doesn't apply in their context, right? So telecoms are starting to think, how can we personalize our messaging, even when we're sending SMSs out there? We have all this data about our customers, but we cannot just blast them anymore. People are not happy with that, right? So AI can help with personalization. So there's a problem there where the customer churn was related to the fact that you're basically indifferent in your messaging to your customer, and they're like, Maze, I'm tired of this telecom, right? And so there's an opportunity to be able to personalize the messaging, right? So now you plug in AI to be able to solve that particular problem. Makes a lot of sense. You have a lot of data. It knows me. It understands where I stay. It knows my patterns, my services that I consume with the telecom. It understands what I've paid for in the past, what I've not paid for. So it has more of that context. And so when it's responding with a promo to me, it knows everything about me to be able to channel that promo to me that is specifically designed for me.
Exactly.
And that's good for me because maybe it's January. I've taken my kids to kids to school just now. Maybe I took a loan in December, and so it's asking me, "Do you want a buffer?" Right? It's basically tailored that message specifically to me. It's not a blast. It's tailored that specific message to me in the context of me in January, given all the data that it has around me. And I feel like that is a very personalized message. And so I'm able to respond to it in a much different way. So AI can solve with that, right? And so this is a churn problem. And now you're like, can AI address that problem for me? So you plug it in there. So when you do it that way, then you're getting ROI. The business is getting some return on investment on this, and it does add a lot of value there because you're starting with a problem, and then you're seeing how AI can actually solve. But when you're starting on the other side, saying, okay, my competitors are they have now transformed their call center. Half of their call center is now automated. They're using AI, and then you're like, call center guys, come here. We need to roll that out here. I'm like, okay, your context is completely different.
You have no idea why they did what they did.
You don't know why they did what they did. And so it might not necessarily work for you. And most of the times it does backfire because you're basically copying and pasting, right? And so it's important also for businesses to be able to think through and say, just because the other bank has done something similar and we are a bank as well, doesn't mean that by default, automatically, you should go and actually apply or do what actually they did. Look through your problems, think through how those problems can be solved by AI, and then do it for you in your context, for your business.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's so makes sense because it sometimes feels like AI is like this trend where you have to be hip and happening, and you have to be saying you're doing AI. When it's like, actually, no, AI is here to help you, and that's it. It's here to help you. So if you have a problem, think about, okay, I think also to add to that, I think businesses should also look at, okay, so we have a problem. Can we solve it with our current tools?
Yes.
Do we have any efficiencies that are yet to be solved? If we've solved all of them and we still haven't resolved the problem completely, maybe AI will be the solution. So I think that's another thing to also add to your point. Also, I want to ask, in the context for organizations, if they have a problem and they want to figure out, if AI can help, do they need to adopt new systems? Does it mean like now we need to buy a new system because AI is here? Or is it a case of, okay, maybe the systems we have now AI capabilities that we can leverage? Yeah, what's that discussion that you have with them? Is it let's buy new tools or leverage existing tools?
Exactly. That's a good question. And I think it's very, it's one of the things that I keep saying. So the thing that usually exists is there's a problem in the organization. And the problem is because of a process, or the problem is because of the people we've put in those places to actually fix this problem. And then organizations or companies quickly run to say the tool is the problem. And so they bring in a consultant, and the consultant is supposed to be able to suggest a new tool to replace the existing tool. So to what basically you're saying, right? Instead of addressing the problems you have in-house around process and people and governance, right? We're quickly saying, this is a tool problem. Like in your classic example, okay, what we have, we don't think it's working. But yes, they're saying that in terms of the tool we have is not working. And we hear that AI is a new thing that is going to basically answer a lot of these questions. So we want to replace what we have with the AI tool. But remember, governance hasn't been addressed. The people conversation hasn't been addressed. The process conversation hasn't been addressed. And so when I come in, usually I am actually checking these things first before I check the tool, because at the end of the day, I know they're trying to outsource the process of them addressing the internal issues by saying bring in a new tool, hoping that this new tool is going to fix the gaps that are actually existing within the company, right? If it's a process problem, if you bring in a new tool, it's not going to address that problem. So you basically layered a problem, which is the process that is broken, on top of a new tool. You will go on to the next and the next and the next tool, and this problem is not going to be solved because it's a process problem. And sometimes what that means is fix the process, stay with the tool that you currently have. You don't necessarily need a new tool for that, right? If it's a governance issue, this is a question of ownership, right? Some of these projects are sitting under IT, and they shouldn't be sitting under IT, right? A project that is impacting, or a solution that is being built in-house, either with the internal team or with an external team that is supposed to solve a problem for customer experience, should be owned by customer experience. It shouldn't be owned by IT, right? So, and that's a governance conversation, right? Something that is coming in to address a marketing problem should be owned by marketing and not owned by tech or IT, right? These guys are facilitators. They're the guys who bring it in. They're the guys who are going to support it. But they're not the guys who are supposed to own that particular project or that particular solution, right? Something for finance, same thing. Something for supply chain, same thing. But what has ended up happening for organizations that haven't fully matured through what over the years we call digital transformation is that everything is put under IT department. Tech owns everything. And the guys who are supposed to be owning it, they're like, that's a project for tech. Like, that's a project for IT. We don't care about it because they don't feel like it's their thing. And so a lot of the sabotage that usually happens is because the function that is supposed to own the solution is not the right function. And because IT owns it, IT becomes a gatekeeper. IT doesn't understand marketing. And they're the ones who are building this solution for marketing. And marketing feels like they're supporting IT to build the solution. It's supposed to be the other way around. Marketing is supposed to be owning it and IT is supporting it, right? And that's all governance. So if the governance is wrong, even when you bring that AI, it becomes an IT project instead of a marketing project or a customer experience project or a finance project or an operational project. It ceases to be that. It becomes an IT project. And so when that happens, it's already failed, right? So the governance was wrong in the first place. Just changing the tool from one to the new one doesn't solve this problem for anyone, right? And so businesses have to think about, if something is broken, what's wrong with the process? What's wrong with our governance? What's wrong with the way we've designed the people who are actually there in terms of their roles and responsibilities? That conversation needs to happen fast before any new tool comes into the picture. The only justification for bringing in a new tool is the old tool that we were using no longer has the capabilities. And there's no way of upgrading it to a version that is going to bring in those new capabilities, right? Now, if intelligence is coming into your ERP, you don't need a separate AI project for that. Your existing ERP will integrate intelligence in the next couple of months. And so you'll still have intelligence integrated as a new capability in your ERP. Customer relationship management solutions like CRMs, right? The future is that they will integrate intelligence into it. If you think about Canva, if you think about any of these other solutions and tools that anyone have been using for the last 5 years, today they've integrated AI into them. Does that mean bringing in a new tool into your organization that specifically just does AI for graphic design. No, because the tools that you already have will integrate AI in the coming months if they don't already have that right now. Anything that we've been using consistently for the last 5 years will have AI integrated into them, which means we do not need to bring in a new tool. Or create or build a new tool in-house.
Yes.
If you wait long enough, it will be integrated in your solution anyway, right? And so the justification to jump from what you currently have, so the question here would be, will it have intelligence integrated into it anyway? If yes, you don't need a new tool, you don't need a new project, you don't need to pilot something new, you don't need any of that stuff. Will your call center solution integrate AI? If they don't have that now, probably in the next 6 to 1 year, they will. Does that mean bringing in a whole new AI solution for just call center? No, right? So that's the kind of thinking that I feel many are making mistakes today because they're rushing. They're rushing to pull in something new, pull something new in, not realizing that the tools they already have is going to have those capabilities in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Yes, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Oh my goodness. Because so what you're saying is, number one, identify the problem. Number two, figure out, is it a governance problem? Is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Once you've ruled out those three, look at the tool and see if the tool has the capabilities or has a release coming up soon that could address your problem. If not, and you've looked very thoroughly, then you could consider having a new tool.
100%. 100%. Now, this is for enterprises. They have tools, the tech stack is huge, people, all of that. So for them to switch to become AI native is almost impossible, right? Just the way that companies that existed before the internet showed up, for them to immediately switch from the original companies that they were to an online business, that switch was not going to happen immediately. But is there value in now thinking about your existing company as an AI native company? Because that's the future where we are going. So there was a time before the internet, everybody was interacting, phone calls, call center, physically visiting. And then when online banking came, the banks had to think about how they would deliver their service over the internet. And they created online banking, right? And so if you go somewhere else as a customer, they have online banking. And you come to your bank and ask them, what's happening? Why are you guys not going online? So the pressure will be that every company will eventually need to be, at the time, every company needed to become an online company. And everybody slowly had to switch. Telecoms had to do the same thing. Banking, financial, insurance companies, education institution, same thing.
Because even the consumer was changing.
Because the consumer is seeing value with another company that is online, and they're wondering, why is my company not online, right? And so the demand happened. And so the consumer will demand going forward that if you're not AI native or on an AI platform at one point or another, or leveraging AI in one way or another, and they're using the tools on the other end, they're going to be asking you, why are you not there? Right? If the way to find you during the online era, the internet era, is to go to Google and search for MarTech, right? That's where people start their research, right? It's become the norm, right? You can't say you don't want to be online. It doesn't make sense, because everybody is asking for your competitors online, right? And so you have to be present there. If someone goes over to, one of the Gen AI solutions, say ChatGPT or Gemini, and they say, I'm looking for marketing consultants in Nairobi. Where is that data going to come from, right? So your ChatGPT has to scrub the internet, find that information, and make it present. But there are people who have already interacted with ChatGPT and given that information to ChatGPT, but you haven't. So now all of a sudden, there are two groups of people. There are the groups of people whose businesses exist in the back end of the knowledge base of ChatGPT, and those whose businesses do not exist in the back-end knowledge of ChatGPT. And they will not be in that list when people are asking about your business and your competition is already there, right? And so as a business, you also have to think about, while yes, the platforms that I'm using internally for our processes. We'll integrate AI for operation efficiencies and whatnot. But also as a business, our value proposition needs to be on the other end of AI. What's that going to look like for us?
Yeah.
And so that's a conversation that the company has to start to have, right? While you are an AI native company, everything is on AI. So that's easy for you by default. If you are like an online company like Amazon back when the internet showed up,
Yeah.
the way we find you is not on the streets of America, it's online. So basically you're going to be there because natively you are built online, right? And so how does an existing company that is an enterprise company think about their presence going forward into the future where customers are going to be interacting with AI and less with Google and search, right, to be able to find you. But also when they're having questions and you as a business provide solutions for those particular questions, when AI is suggesting ways in which to solve this, where is it getting the solutions from, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important to be having that conversations as a business as well, in terms of, in a world where everything is going to be on the other side of AI, what does our business look like in that world?
Yeah.
Because right now we are online, true. But in the next couple of years, everything is going to be behind AI. What does that look for our business? So that's what AI transformation is about. It's essentially, we are a traditional company or a business. Everything right now exists the way we see it online and social media and stuff like that. But AI is on the other side, and our consumers are going to be interacting with us through this new gatekeeper. And on the other side of that business, they need to be able to know about our existence.
Yeah.
How do we then position ourselves to be in that particular world?
Yeah.
That's an important conversation.
Yeah.
No decisions need to be happening today, but it's an important conversation because that's the future we're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, many African organizations are still navigating digital transformation while also being asked to think about AI adoption. So, how should, you've touched on it a little bit, but how should CIOs in African markets approach AI strategically without skipping the critical foundational steps like data infrastructure and process digitization and so on? Because I think some organizations can get too excited and forget, the digital transformation part. It's like, now we're going AI, forget the other part. How can they still, finish the digital transformation effectively and then get onto the path of AI adoption?
Yeah. So there are two pathways there. And I always go back to pre-internet because that's probably the closest era that we all have context to and have been through, right? Right. And if you think about it in terms of before anyone went online, they needed to have computers. So that's the foundation.
Yeah, the entry
right?
point.
That's the entry point, right? The website existed on a system called a server, but that's a computer, right? It needed to exist. You needed to have you as the company be able to host that website somewhere on a platform. So computers needed to exist before online took off. Now we're in the AI era, and AI, if you think about it, the stack of AI, the decisions that are being made up here, which is what we normally see, is basically data that has been pushed in, and that model has been trained to be able to make those decisions, right? And so it's a predictive engine. It's predicting.
Yeah.
If you think about the generative side of AI, it's basically predicting. You're putting a report and say, these are the 3 things I want in my report for sales. These are some data points that I've just collected from my company. Can you give me a sales report out of this? Give me a 2-page report. It's basically taking that based on a lot of the historical data it has. It's able to predict what exactly you want, and it's able to generate that.
Yeah.
But without the data, AI doesn't exist. So for your company to be able to leverage AI in a way that adds value and into the context and the business of your company, it needs all of that data given to it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have data, you have no use cases for adding value for your business with AI. It doesn't exist, right? If decisions have to be made around, say, you're looking at a scenario planning for finance, if you increase your prices by 10%, what's the implication of that? And you're asking the AI to give you information. It will need all the sales records you've had for the last 5 years. It will need the profit and loss books. It will need a lot of that data initially to be able to make the right decision for you and give you that scenario planning. So without that data, it's not going to give you valuable information. So data is the foundation. And so you're right to say that we might be excited through the journey of digital transformation because AI is here and we haven't even gone halfway within our own business or company and now say, okay, let's just stop where we are and then jump and then start adopting this new AI system.
Yeah.
You will bring it in, but because of those foundational gaps that still exist, right, that AI is not going to add as much value as it would if you had actually closed those foundational gaps. So data is definitely important. How that data is structured is important. How that data is collected, because you can give data today, but then what happens 1 year from now? You obviously are still on an ongoing basis collecting that data from sales, from marketing, from your call center. Like the structure still needs to exist to be able to pull customer data and have it in a structured way, centralized, so that AI can actually use that.
Yeah.
So if the infrastructure has not been built, you don't have anything to give AI from today if you just have Excel spreadsheets, right? What happens 6 months from now?
Yeah.
More Excel spreadsheets. Like you need to be able to resolve how that data is collected through that pipeline. Where is it stored? How often is it cleaned?
Yeah.
Right? Who gets to check it to make sure that it's actually the right information that is there, and then be able to push it over to AI.
Yeah.
But even in the context of all of that, one of the pieces that need to still exist within the infrastructure conversation is the human in the loop. Like context is provided by a human being who has been in your business for years, who understands how your business runs and understands how that function runs, if it's sales, for example. The other thing is judgment, right? AI is going to give you information back. But if you look at it, you are the one to make the judgment call. It's not the AI to make the judgment call.
Yeah.
It's giving you options. You could do A, B, C. And then you have to look at that, assess it in the context of that of your business and the information you know, to be able to say, I think C is the right choice for us.
Yeah.
Let's go in that direction.
Yeah.
That decision is yours. It's not AI's. So there's always going to be a human in the loop, essentially, because context and judgment is provided by human beings and not provided by AI.
Yeah.
AI, the way I tell people is that AI is just a suggestion engine. It's giving you suggestions. And that's what intelligence is, right? It's like an intern. So you've got a bunch of interns working in your organization, and these are all the AI tools that they're using. But they're taking the output of this intern and making it the decision for the business. That's suicide.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Because you wouldn't do that with an intern.
Yeah.
An intern will give you the information, you look at it, you'll review it again, check it. But how many people check the information that comes out of AI before they make a final call and say, I'm making this presentation?
Yeah.
Like, are you looking at it and then going through it and saying, no, it's not right here, it's correct here, it's not right here. Let me go back and forth with this. But when you're going back and forth with this review process is you as a human being with the context of the business, applying that judgment to be able to refine it.
Yeah.
The decision is eventually yours as a human person in that business, not for the AI, right? And so I think that's the other piece of the architecture that people are missing. So it's important to also include the human judgment and context in. While you're talking about tools, at every given point in time when you're dealing with AI, you have to be able to infuse the human as well.
Yeah. Because AI is not foolproof.
Nope.
Right?
It gets better, it gets smarter.
Yeah.
Obviously, 2 years ago, it wasn't as smart as it is right now. I think now they're saying it's operating at a PhD level, and then 2 years ago it was like a primary school level. So 2 years from now, if today it's at a PhD level, what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
Obviously, it gets to a point where it's smarter than a human being. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that's a bit of a scary one. But we'll wait.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Okay. No, I really like your points that you're making. Like, the whole governance, the structures need to be there. Data, what data are you giving it? Does the data exist? Is it accurate? How are we going to continuously feed the engine? Who's going to be checking? These are all process things, actually.
Yes.
Again, not tool specific.
Yes.
I think tools are enablers. They've always been enablers. Technology has always been an enabler, not a silver bullet. And I think that's another key thing that you're highlighting here. Again, AI is not a silver bullet. It's going to supercharge, but it's not going to magically revolutionize everything.
That's true. And the other thing also, remember, we are not used to the speed, right? If you think about leaders in organization right now, it used to take maybe a week or two to go through back and forth with your team. when you're looking at strategy and doing some refinements, right? You're doing a report, it's back and forth. It takes about a day, a week or two, right? Right now, everything that we've been doing, we can actually do it faster. But we are not used to that. The way we make decisions at an enterprise level, because of the new speed at which the information gets back to us, we don't know what to do in that context. And so I think as leadership, within the governance conversation we had, you have your ExCo, you have your CEO, and you have all these people. The information that gets to you now, which used to take 2 weeks, gets to you within a day. And then now all of a sudden, because we are not used to working in a context where information is so quick to get to us, the kind of decision-making process will have to change. Because remember, we designed a decision-making process at leadership level that takes into consideration that information gets there slowly. And so we are able to make judgment calls based on the review here, check here, review here, and that's fine. So the pace in which we were making decisions was based on how quickly the information came up. But now information gets to us really fast. And so the way we make decisions at that leadership level, we have to rethink that. And so I don't think we've built organizations in a day and age where information comes so quickly and decision making needs to also move at that particular pace. So we have to rethink that. I don't think anyone has a solution for that, but I think part of the reason why we are making mistakes is because we've designed a decision making structure that was good and fit for slow information coming up, and now information comes up so quickly. And so when we make those decisions, they're actually wrong decisions. But it was right if it followed the duration of a week or two. We would have made a right decision because it took time to get to us. But now it's here. Now what do we do? So there's like, how do we check this? How do we confirm? Was there a human in the loop? Because we know our teams are using AI. Have we guided them in terms of making sure that they're actually themselves interrogating the AI output before sending the information up? Like, so there's a different way of making decisions here when speed is the way that it is today. But not many people have actually figured that out yet. So we essentially, we're making that snap decision because the information is here. Let's do that. If this information came to us after 1 week, we would not have made that decision. But it's here and we have to make a decision. So now we're making wrong decisions because it's come up so quickly. So it's a model, it's an operating model at leadership level that we haven't figured it out yet. But I think this is a problem that many organizations are experiencing. They still don't know it's a problem, but it is because we built something that was based on slow information coming up, and now information is so fast to get to us. And we have to think through, how do we create friction
to slow it
downstream and ensure that everybody is doing their part, and what exactly should they do in the age of AI before it gets to us for decision making. Because initially it used to get to us, and because of that slow friction that existed, it's refined. But now it's not being refined. It's getting to us as quickly as possible, and it's here. And we have to make a decision. And that becomes a problem.
Ooh, that's a very interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. In your engagement with organizations currently, are there any that you're seeing have identified it as a problem and are starting to fix it? Or are you seeing most people are just like, they haven't yet picked up on it? Like, what's your experience right now in this market with the organizations you're working with?
I think so what I'm saying is, a presentation has been given to, let's say, the CEO, and the CEO is going through that presentation, and they're thinking, okay, it's perfect. It looks good. The data points are there, the trends, all of that has been presented. It looks amazing, right? But usually by the time that presentation reaches that level, it's taken a week. So the question now is, I am not too sure whether everyone who was part of this conversation was involved and they asked the right questions. And so I have to build in a structure within the team below me to basically critique and interrogate this presentation before it gets to me, right? Now, because that information was slow to come in and it took 1 week, everybody played their part before it gets to the CEO. But today, boop,
Yeah.
it's been presented.
Yeah.
And very few people looked at it.
Yeah.
They're like, it looks okay, it looks fine, it's accurate. But is it really? You don't know.
Yeah.
You basically outsourced the decision making to AI and not necessarily the judgment that you need to bring to the conversation.
Yeah.
So the solution there is essentially just to create friction downstream.
Yeah.
And create friction downstream in such a way that within that process, there's confirmation that people asked questions before that last presentation comes over to you as the CEO, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to do that in the past when it was a 1 week process because everybody needed to contribute by design. But right now, they don't have to.
Yeah.
The information is in one place. You can take that, push it to AI. AI does analytics for you, does the presentation, done.
Yeah.
So now you have to create friction down and ask everybody to be part of that conversation before the final presentation is made.
Yeah. Wow. So it seems like it's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
We're almost delegating everything to AI.
Yeah.
Yes, AI has come here to make our lives easier, to automate, to supercharge, to give us intelligence. But we also still need to be like, okay, that is great. However, we still need to have the right checks and balances at every single stage and not delegate everything to AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. We shouldn't skip it.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference. The only, again, I think I'll just go back to what I said. The human, in a world where AI is doing everything, what's the role of the human being, right? Yours is to bring context and judgment.
Yeah.
So the human being is bringing context and judgment. The AI will not. And remember that the different roles within the organization bring in different judgment point of views. Sales will bring their different point of view, marketing, different point of view, customer experience, different point of view, guys in operations, same thing.
Yeah.
And so those different point of views are not represented in the final product if they are not part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Hence why they need to be able to engage, right? And so if we just let AI give us a product, give us a presentation, give us a report, without all of these other functions contributing to the conversation, it will not have that context from the different functions.
Yeah.
It will also not have the judgment that all the other leaders in the organization have that needs to be part of this report before it's actually finalized, right? And so that's really the reasoning and the thinking around that, right? It doesn't mean you go write the report. Yes, you're going to use AI to be able to write that report, yes.
Yeah.
But your contribution there is judgment and context. And yours is different from mine, which is different from the next director of this function and the other director of this function and this other VP.
Yeah.
But all of you need to be part of building this
Yeah.
before we get the final report.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will be done faster, but we cannot disconnect ourselves from the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. So there's to close. There's often a discussion about Africa's ability to leapfrog legacy systems in areas like mobile payments.
Yeah.
Do you see a similar opportunity with AI, where African organizations can adopt AI more intelligently than markets who are burdened with decades of legacy infrastructure?
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. There was a time, not even just a time, I think we were the first to do mobile banking. When the West didn't understand what that was about because their banking systems were working really fine and their credit cards and all of that.
Yeah.
ATMs everywhere, everything online, you can use your card to buy and that was fine. So they didn't see the need to create mobile banking the way we know it today as M-Pesa, right? It existed, it was designed here, it was invented here literally because of the context that we lived in Africa. So for me, the digital transformation conversation in terms of where the West is vis-a-vis where Africa is more in terms of what is uniquely our context. And we being cognizant of the fact that we do have constraints within our context of Africa that is uniquely African, that is impossible to address and solve with a copy-paste solution from, let's say, San Francisco or London, which other country from the global West, right? If we focus in that space and build solutions for this context called Africa, within the constraints of Africa, then yes, by default, right? We will then create things here that are specifically speaking to our constraints and to our context, right? So, for example, if you think about chatbots, the majority of Africa is not going to use chatbots in any one form or another, because you need internet and you need a smartphone to be able to interact with a chatbot. The urban population, which is probably, if not 10% or less of the population of, let's say, a country like Kenya, for example, is a very small urban population, right? And the majority of the population are not going to be the people who live in Nairobi. They're living outside Nairobi. Not even just, even peri-urban, beyond that, outside of, say, Nakuru and Eldoret, you have to go a little bit further, right? And those people are not going to be interacting with AI on chatbot basis and things like that. So if you're thinking as a company, you're thinking, what do I do in terms of creating the efficiencies? Yes. Building a solution, yes, but also thinking about the last mile. Because the last mile is the majority, right? It's the bigger part, the bigger chunk of Africa. They don't have a smartphone. You're not going to force them to buy a smartphone. They don't have internet or a reliable telecom connection. You're not going to force them to do that, right? So how do you build around those constraints is the conversation we need to have as a continent, right? And so if you are a bank, it's a question of, how do I get to that last mile with the product that I have? By not asking them to buy a smartphone, by not asking them to buy a computer, by not asking them to buy 100 Mbps internet speeds, right? They have a kabambe, they can use SMS. Like, how do you reach them? How do you get to them where they are without asking them to change, to buy something new, or to buy a device, or to invest, or to be able to pay for more? So AI allows us to be able to put intelligence behind a space that is constrained, where we would have needed so many people to support a system like that, but intelligence can do it very quickly, right? Like, for example, if you needed to call someone in, what is the remotest place that you can think of?
Turkana?
Turkana, for example, right? They have a kabambe, they don't have a smartphone. You want to be able to engage with them. You need to be able to get insights from them. You want to use that insight to personalize something for them. Maybe it's a healthcare product. Maybe it's some advice that only people in Turkana need to have. Again, I don't know, whatever, dynamics are happening in Turkana, for example. It's a communication, maybe from Ministry of Health, around this time of the year. This is happening in Turkana. They need a message around that, right? And so you would have had like a team of people in Ministry of Health doing research, finding out, calling, all of that. Can all that be aggregated through an AI agent that will call someone in Turkana, speak to them in their language, and tell them this information? So the intelligence and the technology exists now to be able to build solutions like that, where we could have had like 2 floors of people and phones and research and online and whatnot to be able to reach that one person in Turkana. Now you can build an intelligent system that can do that. And it can do it for that person in Turkana and speak to someone in the remotest part of coastal Kenya and someone in central Kenya in their language, in the context of the information you want to share for that person. And it can personalize all of that. Just one system can do all of that if it's built, right? So the answer is yes. We can leapfrog the West, but we can only leapfrog the West by leveraging these tools in our context and providing solutions for this context within the constraints of Africa. That's where the difference is. Not to copy-paste another chatbot that is used by Amazon and you put it here and you're expecting the majority of Kenyans to use it. That's probably not going to work. So context is important. The constraints within which we are working in is important. And then the intelligence just essentially allows us to scale something that was not scalable at all at a national and a Pan-African level. And AI can do that.
Wow. All right. This has been really, really eye-opening. I feel like we could even go for another whole hour.
Yes.
But I would like you to, maybe give a parting shot, for organizations that are, thinking about AI, are under pressure from the board to figure out their AI strategy. Maybe you could just, give them a parting shot or some strategic thought that can help them face this new
Through this
reality.
journey.
Yeah, that is fast coming towards us all.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Two things. One, AI transformation is the lessons we learned during digital transformations are the same lessons that we will apply in AI transformation. There's nothing new here. It's just a change of tool,
Yeah.
right? From offline to online, there was that transition.
Yeah.
From on-prem to cloud, there was that transition. The way we did that is exactly the same way we should be able to handle this transformation, this journey with AI. Nothing, no surprises. People are responding in such a way that this is new. They have no clue what's happening. We have a template I think we can always reference. How did we go from offline to online? How did we go from on-prem to cloud?
Yeah.
That journey happened.
Yeah.
How did you go from Kabambe to smartphone? That journey happened. So that happened. We had our challenges there as a business and as companies, and the lessons that were learned. And so those lessons can be applied through this journey. The second thing is that when we think about AI transformation, it's a top-down conversation. It's not a bottom-up conversation. So it must start from the board. So you need to be able to have that conversation at the board level to understand where the ROI is and be able to guide the organization in terms of building a strategy over the next 5 years on where the company needs to be. So once that has been concluded, then it comes down to the leadership level, the ExCo, to start to think through how can they actually action this new strategy for the business. And then now it gets into the operations. What I'm seeing happening is that people are trying to implement AI in this side, in these operations, in this other function here. So they're trying to make it an down-up conversation. And it's not going to work. It's never worked that way. So it needs to be aligned at the strategy level, board level, before anything can happen down here. Anything that happens down here is a proof of concept, and it's dead on arrival because now you have to justify asking for more money to take that project to scale. That conversation has not been had at this level, How are you going to actually move on with this? That's why the projects stop at 6 months and nothing happens after that. There's no money, there's no budget.
Because there's no buy-in.
There's no buy-in. It's not even just a question of buy-in. It needs to be plugged into your strategy from the very beginning, at the very top. And then everything down starts to happen after that, not before. So doing it the other way around usually never works. It just fails. So it's a top-down conversation, and it should always be a top-down conversation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Timothy. This has been a real pleasure. And I'm sure we'll have another extension of this conversation because I think there's more to unpack as things evolve. I'm sure there'll be more to share in another session. But thank you so much.
Most definitely. Thank you for having me, Fiona.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of MarTech Unraveled podcast.